Hi guys, this is the video recording for the Management 5912 Assignment 2 Culture Profile. The culture I choose for the assignment is US Logistics and Supply Chain Culture. Okay, this is the agenda we're going to deliver today. Well, this presentation examines how key cultural dimensions shape the negotiation behaviors within US logistics and supply chain industry. As one of the largest international trade entities, the culture is a great reference and tool. By exploring these dimensions through concrete examples, negotiators like me can better understand US counterparts, negotiation outcomes, and partnerships. Well, about the cultural characteristics, I will use half styles to give cultural insight. Initially, the US logistics sector reflects low power distance, so centralized, and AI support decision making. For example, MIT study found that the US warehouse managers dedicate 33% of operational decisions to AI. Meanwhile, the culture can create friction with more hierarchical partners. Walmart's use of retail link led 68% of Asian suppliers to report discomfort of the required transparency. Well, next about the US logistics culture is about to experimentations and accept failures as part of innovation. For instance, Flexport allocates 4% of every budget, allowing teams to learn quickly from mistakes. But indulgence has its risk. At Ryder, heavy use of Slack or internal communication has led to 62% of miscommunications. This is what negotiators should aware in this set. Well, American logistics decisions are often based on short-term returns. In other words, long-term commitments do happen, especially when the short-term stakes are high. Tesla's long-term lithium contracts are one example balancing short-term and long-term achievements. Next, US logistics is highly individualistic, which encourages fast innovation, which may weaken long-term partnerships. While a 32% of driver attrition rate of Uber Freight reflects what researchers call a paradox. Individualism drives 90% of faster innovation, but also leads to 27% of higher partnership turnover. Last but not least, the US logistics industry is driven by qualitative efficiency-focused metrics. For instance, apps use minute-level GPS tracking penalties, which reflect a long focus on time modernization. At the same time, gender-related performance gaps also reflect cultural values. Female-led logistics projects tend to be more flexible and adaptive, but slightly lower in cost control and efficiency. While a lower uncertainty avoidance does matter, US logistics firms are comfortable with risk unless it is controlled. A great example is Amazon's triple warehouse strategy, where companies spend 4.2% of their logistics budgets on redundancy. That's more than Japan and less than Brazil. Regulatory standards are clearer. For example, the FDA allows a tolerance for plus or minus 1 degree Celsius variation in temperature control, showing a pragmatic approach to rules over rigid perfectionism. Well, let's now jump to the negotiation device. First, American logistics professionals strongly prefer clear, direct, and transparent communication. So clearly outline KPIs like precise delivery dates, extra cost targets, and responsibilities around potential delays or risks. Besides, don't overemphasize informal titles and address counterparts informally, like Chris from procurement, to reflect the cultural reference for egalitarian communication. Next, research shows that 60% of US logistics professionals strongly prefer individual targets over team goals. Consider using blockchain-based smart contracts (DHLs) driver tokens program, which awards drivers tokens for individual achievements such as punctuality or fuel efficiency. Considering the distribution of profits and interest accurately to individuals is crucial in negotiation context. Third, in negotiations, suggest quarterly targets paired with immediate rewards like discounts or priority handling of shipments. Clearly communicate the immediate value and emphasize that delaying decisions is useful using the psychological principle of loss aversion that is especially effective in this industry culture. Next, propose Adaptive agreements clearly outline conditions which changes can be made automatically, such as clearly defined adjustment tied to fluctuations in fuel costs, shipping volumes, or other measurable factors. For example, offer flexible pricing clauses like implementing parametric contracting, where specific clauses automatically trigger adjustments based on measurable variables such as fuel price fluctuations, hurricane clauses in negotiations. Okay, now let's put into practice. About the Cross-Cultural Action Plan 1, like US logistic professionals prioritize clarity and performance over vague visions in the differentiation phase. They open the negotiations with specific targets and expectations, not relationship talk. For example, Fed Express once stated, "We require a 98% on-time delivery rate. Below 95%, we charge $500 per hour of delay. Please share your past 3 years KPIs data." And it is shown that they expect benchmarking from the start. Amazon, for instance, asks supplier for automation rates over 80% and damage rates below 0.5%. And over 70% of US logistics firms use such benchmarks to assess vendors from the negotiation. Social gestures like gifts or dinners are rarely valued. As US CEO told a Brazilian partner, "Thanks for the invitation, but we like to rather see the port congestion solutions in your PPT." Well, during the exploration phase, US logistics negotiators focus on solving problems. They welcome innovation, but only if ideas are practical, data-backed, and tied to measurable results. They prefer concise proposals with clearer outcomes, especially in cost, delivery, and risk in transportation. They value autonomy and let technical teams decide directly. While rejections are typically direct but respectful, with feedback aimed at improving solutions, not assigning blame. They often use benchmarking to assess proposals and focus on fast, practical execution. While in the exchange phase, they from ideas to formal agreements. In this phase, they move from ideas to structured agreements. They expect clear deliverables, timelines, and fallback clauses to manage risk. They formalize trade-off using tools like performance-based pricing, penalty clauses, or third-party inspections. Concessions are treated as business logic, not relationship favors. They address conflict directly and professionally, relying on facts, not emotion. Well, in this phase, assertiveness is welcomed as long as it's backed by reasoning. And while they may be friendly in tone, but they treat contracts with serious attention to detail and enforcement. And we can bring it down to how we adapting behavior to negotiation effectively in the cross-cultural action plan 2. Well, in the differentiation phase, set the tone with facts. Share clear deliverables, KPIs, and historical data upfront. Avoid vague goals like build long-term trust. Also use function-based language. Show that you have benchmarked your service against major players. Well, in the exploration phase, offer logic and leverage. Prepare the efficiency-focused discussions. If the price is an issue, respond with structured trade-offs, extended contracts, added services, performance guarantees, provide best-in-class benchmarks, and make innovation proposals grounded and realistic. Avoid defensive or emotional reactions. Instead, provide to problem solving. Well, lastly, in exchange phase, frame concessions as conditional, tied to measurable outcomes. Spell out how risks will be shared. If needed, propose third-party verification to resolve disputes. Clear, define contract terms and exit conditions. Be polite but firm. Assertiveness backed by logic is not only acceptable in US business culture, it is generally respected. Well, in summary, US logistics professionals prefer clear goals, data-driven thinking, and efficient decision-making. To negotiate successfully in the people from this context, it is best to communicate directly and offer measurable practical values. This can make you and me to achieve success in negotiation with U.S. logistic and supply chain negotiators. This is what I'm going to talk about. Thanks.